Forever yours. Same I, same E, same everything. Same everything. Wait a minute. Catch it. Listen, but here's what's funny though. Y'all could Google it. Y'all could just Google Kim's handwriting and it pops up. It's like the exact same. All you gotta do is just Google Kim's handwriting.
Oh, I got that for you.
It's easy. Like, oh, they gonna say, oh no, we have an expert saying that this is not Kim's. It was forged, right?
Here go Kim.
So if it's forged, then that means the whole contract is void, right? And that means that we all sue everybody. Santa Barbara sex, Kimmy. This is her on mine. Now the judge is what all I want the judge to do is ask to see a copy of her contract, because her contract's gonna state the same, because we signed the same thing and we got the same amount of money. The $5 million you'll never be able to find, because that's a lie.
Kelly, with you? What?
ACT, do you see this?
Look, if it ain't official Dana J, Levi for Kelly, Primadonnanews, I don't even want to see it.
As we watch the last stages in this R. Kelly trial with closing arguments, let me remind you of some information that I put out long ago, and how the hypocrisy is what I began to speak on, and how a lot of people in the urban communities participated in the same type of activities Kim K perhaps participated in Hollywood. However, if you have a certain complexion, you're not going to get that same celebrity status that other individuals get. At the same time, let's look at this scenario when it comes to Kim Kardashian and Lisa Van Allen. When it comes to Lisa Van Allen giving us this story of how she engaged with the minor, but then trying to sugarcoat the fact that she was under the impression she was a year older, and all of these celebrities are so quick to gravitate toward her story and not be giving her the side eye, when common sense should have obviously signaled, if you consider the fact that these people have done a lot of maneuvering to retrieve these copies of videos, copies that have been reproduced, manufactured, put all over the internet, as the government built a case talking about how Robert Kelly exploited these minors and doesn't want to focus on how all these career criminals capitalize off of exploiting criminal activities. Now, the first red flag was, if anybody was familiar with the topic at hand, people would have immediately thought back to the first trial, and even when other alleged evidence was thrown out. With that being said, when you have janky-ass people like Michael Avenatti coming out declaring that these tapes that he has become in possession of are new, which anybody should have processed. Lisa Van Allen coming out saying, I took this tape that I was on. Her janky ass fiance coming out saying, I made sure she wasn't on the tape. Jim Derogatis coming out talking about Yul Brown was trying to extort him, and nobody is wanting to talk about those criminal activities before this janky ass obstruction allegation came to be. But I'm supposed to believe this is about protecting black women and black girls when I see prosecutors dishing out immunity deals for people who they say are disgraced in their own words, and yet I'm supposed to take serious their testimonies. Make this shit make sense. Now, it's funny that these prosecutors would sugarcoat the fact that these girls are all over the place with their ages and bypass how they came to the public to shape this narrative, how he was preying on these minors. Then they want to use a whole extortion plot in order to build an obstruction case, when common sense should tell you the specific tape in question that Lisa Van Allen said she took is not the tape they claim they saw in the court. So with that being said, either A, somebody else need to come out and say they took a tape, or B, we need to see the manipulation and how a lot of these people fabricated and manufactured a lot of these scenes that they showed to other individuals that had them feeling like they were the ones on the tape. If you think about the testimony, why are so many of these accusers claiming credit for being on this tape and they don't have the visual depictions to prove that? Oh, same reason why they didn't charge him with RAPE, because you have to have so many elements of evidence in order for specific charges. However, by using these janky ass people to corroborate these allegations, we're supposed to sit back and bypass their lack of credibility. Then I noticed some of the fanatics feeling some type of way listening to Daryl McDavid's shots at Robert Kelly. And y'all bypass how I put you up on game, how he was involved in a lot of janky business himself. Therefore, if you think he is a friend, there lies the confusion. And while you can't see, he's more focused on saving himself with his testimony than actually being neutral. So when he unveils all of this documentation, showing this extortion, showing the people behind it, confirming a lot of the information that I've gave you, put in your face over and over so you see how this whole setup originated, then it should be obvious why I second guessed a lot of the accusations as a whole. Prosecutors would like people with common sense to pick and choose from these testimonies of disgraceful individuals, ignore all of their motivating factors such as immunity deals, even though they're admitting to crimes, bypass they're not going to prosecute all these enablers they lied to the public telling they would, and consider, as I said from day one, none of this is about any of those accusers. And what's unfortunate is a lot of these people telling these stories, they didn't realize how they were being used and manipulated. Like, for example, how can a woman by the name of Montina Woods sue R. Kelly because of janky-ass people like Lisa Van Allen, Keith Muriel, and Chuck Freeman manipulate the storyline of this quote-unquote infamous tape? And then everybody with common sense gonna bypass passing it to Jim Derogatis, passing it to this person, letting this person see it, setting up all these meetings so that all these individuals can view this so-called child porn, which was the biggest red flag to me, especially if you can pull up somebody's lawsuit like Montina Woods. You clearly see age was not a factor in majority of these lawsuits. You watch these people try to manipulate that fact alone, and you're supposed to take serious the extortion we see unraveling with this whole infamous tape. The icing on the cake for me is knowing the fact that a person like Jim Derogatis could spend 20 plus years passing these stories all around, implicating himself in criminal activity, and then he can get a pass from all of his peers in the pursuit of a story. Meanwhile, people in similar situations, they're going to be pressured to cooperate and corroborate some of these allegations in order for them to skip away from being prosecuted, as these goofy people on the internet prove why I know this isn't about justice and or prosecuting everybody who they claim is exploiting children, is engaging with minors, and who should have got the same energy as Robert Kelly instead of being given the platform to act like they're newfound celebrities with the bullshit, okay? So in conclusion, to make this make sense as to how I feel about all of these people who advocate for Me Too, who advocate for pushing certain stories throughout Hollywood, who gave platforms to a lot of these individuals who really just wanted to be a part of a reality show, is what really gets me, especially when people want to act like they're advocating for rights, advocating to protect children, and you miss the whole point as to why a person like me had to do my due diligence in tracking down the origins of all of these stories I've heard on repeat. Especially when you hear the foundation to how these allegations originate, you see how these individuals who are supposed to be witnesses act. They think they could just tell us that a man is walking around with a bag of porno tapes like we're dumb, and nobody is going to challenge the bullshit. At the end of the day, when you tip over here to Ray J and Kris Kardashian's conflict right now, it should make sense why I couldn't even factor the age when I see parents coming out with these allegations. I know how people get down in this Hollywood type lifestyle, meaning they're willing to sacrifice so much for fame. A lot of these people are being exploited who come from impoverished backgrounds, but nobody wants to talk about that. We want to just put all this pressure on celebrities like Robert Kelly, twist the laws as though he's such an influential person that he has authority over these people stalking him, and then we're going to make him a predator and avoid all of this janky ass behavior. Make this shit make sense.
I do believe in my heart that 1999 video that was done with R. Kelly and that little girl, I do believe that that little girl was underage. I do know for a fact that that was R. Kelly in that video.
The minute I began to recognize the deception on these platforms and how individuals who claim to have so much respect for a person like Barry Hankerson also grant an interview in which he admits to being at an alleged wedding ceremony between Hankerson's niece and Robert Kelly is what made me look at a lot of these people with the side eye as they continuously came on here planting false narratives, pointing the direction and your attention to people who had nothing to do with all these stories these people came on platforms telling, giving the feds ammunition to build their janky ass case. So in conclusion, after reviewing everything that I've researched, paid attention to these testimonies, and observed the allegations from the indictment, it should be obvious why the prosecutors failed to prove that Robert Kelly obstructed justice when your own witnesses get on here talking about this whole extortion plot at hand, which gives doubt to another tape unless they have another suspect, which gives more rise to questioning the credibility of this so-called video footage they have when you have multiple people thinking it was them on the tape, even though previous testimony from the 2008 trial lets you know that they speculated this girl's age at 12 or 13. They came out continuously saying 14. Then she testifies to no physical interactions till 15. So how could she be on the tape? But instead of driving home the inconsistencies, people will continue to let people pick and choose what stories they want to believe from janky ass individuals after we have let all these key players who could have testified pass away, after all of this evidence has been mishandled, after all of these janky ass people have been caught up in scandal like Michael Avenatti. So if you can't see the reasonable doubt within that, I don't know what to tell you, considering you can still Google R. Kelly sex tape and see this alleged child porn everywhere. Make this shit make sense.
City of justice, yeah, a city of love, a city of peace, every one of us.
I want to send a message to the enablers of Mr. Kelly, to the agents and the managers and the attorneys and the others who stood idly by and looked the other way and turned a blind eye while teenage girls were sexually assaulted for over 2 decades. I will not rest until each of you is brought to justice.
Witness after witness identify those on that now infamous sex tape as the alleged victim and R. Kelly. SEAL TV's Randy Bellasoma was in the courtroom today. Joins us now from 26 in California with more. Randy?
Sean, today, for the first time, we heard testimony that identified those on the tape from someone other than a relative, a friend, or a parent of a friend of the alleged victim. We heard from a former employee of R. Kelly who said at first she did not want to believe that it was him. Lindsay Perryman worked for Robert Kelly on and off from 1999 to 2006, doing everything from cleaning floors to handling the defendant's personal business. She told the court that included driving the alleged victim in the now infamous sex tape to and from his Olympia Fields home. She also testified to often seeing the girl at Kelly's recording studio, sometimes carrying a pillow and an overnight bag. The image that I saw looks exactly like Mr. Kelly, Perryman said, then IDing the female on the tape, citing her facial features and her cheekbones. During cross-examination, defense attorney Mark Martin inquired about Perryman's purported master's degree from a recording conservatory in Arizona, a degree she said took only months to acquire.